What's up guys, today we are looking at the brand new Warrior Edge from Diadem. Before we get into it, I just want to say if you guys aren't following me on Instagram already, you should. I just recently did a 30 tips in 30 days pickleball series that was a big hit. I will also be doing early paddle impressions on Instagram, so if that's something you're interested in, make sure to click the link in the description. Also, thanks to Just Paddles for sending me this paddle to review. If you guys plan to pick one up, you can use my affiliate link in the description, and that just gives me a small kickback when you guys purchase something. Doesn't come at any extra cost to you, just help support the channel. For the specs, we have a 16mm polymer single core, not a 3XL core like the original Warrior. It's an elongated shape with a 5-inch octagon handle and a pretty small grip at 4 1/8 inches. Diadem is also now using an etched graphite face. If you're familiar with Carbon, Electrum, and the new Yola paddles, this surface feels very similar to those. They also have their new Aero Guard technology, which are these slits in the edge guard that supposedly make the paddle more aerodynamic. Seriously? People love to mock the hole in the throat idea for being aerodynamic, and now we have a company claiming that these slits in the edge guard are more aerodynamic. I don't think anyone has tested that, but I do find it to be pretty ridiculous marketing to claim that these slits are going to make your resets for your hands after a hands battle be faster. So while I think these slits are definitely a gimmick when it comes to aerodynamics, I do think that aesthetically they look pretty pleasing. One other thing I do want to note is that it probably makes placing lead tape just a tiny bit harder. I can't imagine it's actually that much more difficult, but because it dips down, the tape doesn't sit as evenly as it would on a regular edge guard. Probably not a huge worry, but just something that makes a minor inconvenience when it doesn't really provide any useful feedback to the player. This also weighs in at an average of 8 ounces. Mine was 7.9 and feels a bit easier to maneuver at the net than the original Warrior. While it is a little bit lighter than the original Warrior, some of that weight is still shifted towards the head. For spin, I got a result of 1475 RPM, which is about mid to high tier. It's actually very similar to the original Warrior, which was 1542, but the big bright side is now that Diadem is using a surface similar to Electrum, the grit should last much longer. On the original Warrior, you could wear it down in about a week. This surface may fade over time, but it's going to be much more resistant than their last paddle, so that's a big plus. In comparison to other paddles on the market that are using this carbon fiber face surface, I would definitely put this paddle on the poppier side. I actually had a very hard time using this paddle to control my drop shots in resets in particular. Drop shots either completely died off the paddle, went really high, or just not far enough. My internal gauge of how much my body needed to do was completely thrown off, and it was actually really frustrating. When compared to the Model E or the Hyperion CFS, I had a significantly harder time with my soft game on the Warrior Edge. When it came to power, I felt like the Edge was quite good even despite the slightly lighter weight. Drives felt like they had good pace along with my counter punches, but beyond that, nothing was particularly standout about it. The sweet spot is the biggest issue I had with this paddle. I haven't found the right words to describe it, but when you hit just outside of the sweet spot, it's such a harsh drop off in performance and feel. And I guess the bright side is that if you do miss-hit the ball, you're absolutely going to know it. And for some people, they view that as a benefit because it's feedback from the paddle telling you what you did wrong. I'm used to paddles like the Hyperion CFS where the roll-off feels a bit better and the ball doesn't completely die. That isn't the case on the Warrior Edge, and the face feels really stiff when you hit outside the sweet spot. Even in the sweet spot, the feedback that the paddle gives isn't my favorite. I think it's just quite a bit of vibration into my arm that doesn't feel good. To me, the sweet spot on this feels below average. So at the net, this paddle feels just a little bit slower than other paddles that I'm used to. It's a bit more head heavy, so the swing weight came in at over 120. I talked about this a little bit in my 003 review. I'm not fully ready to publish data yet. I'm still making sure the machine is calibrated and making sure that the data is actually accurate. But yeah, the Warrior Edge is a little bit harder to swing. It is lighter than the Warrior, but still kind of up there in swing weight. The bright side with the Warrior Edge is the durability seems to be much improved. Their new edge guard feels like a softer plastic and seems like it'll hold up quite well. Since the surface is similar to Electrum, you also won't have to worry about the grit wearing out really fast. So all around, this paddle feels like an improvement over the original Warrior for durability, which was basically my biggest complaint with that paddle. If you took out the durability issues, the original Warrior was amazing.
I would say overall, I enjoyed it. I think it is an improvement over the original Warrior. It has kind of the pace in the spin um, that I would look for in a paddle. I think the one thing that I disliked compared to the Warrior is that it didn't feel as stable. It is about at least half an ounce less than the original Warrior. And I think I felt that kind of vibration and instability in some of my shots, especially when it came to resets. If you've played with the Warrior before, you know that it's kind of the king of resets. And so dropping that weight, it felt like it wasn't as stable when I was trying to reset the ball out of the air. I think if you were to play with it and you add a little bit of lead tape around the throat, I think that would help clear up some of the issue. I think one of the other things it improves on is it obviously drops some weight, so it speeds up your hands a little bit quicker. It feels a little bit quicker on the net, which is helpful, especially for my game where I like speeding up and getting into hands battles. I would say in terms of spin potential compared to other very similar, I think the spin is right. It feels right on par with those. You're not going to notice a huge difference in that spin potential. I did feel like I've played on and off with the Electrum every once in a while, and I felt like I was able to get more pop with this compared to the Electrum, and maybe it was just the shape of the face that made me feel more comfortable with it. So I currently play with the Ben Johns Hyperion. I would say in general it improves on that just in the weight category. It's less weight. It's not as top heavy. You're able to maneuver the paddle around quite a bit better. On the flip side, you lose a lot of that stability that you have with the Hyperion. I think anyone that plays with the Hyperion, you realize it feels solid on pretty much every shot. You don't feel like it's moving around in your hand. It just feels very, very solid. And I would say that's the main difference between the two. I feel like I get a little bit more pop with the Hyperion just because you've got more weight on the head, hitting through the ball. And I would say it didn't underperform compared to the Hyperion in a lot of the other areas. I would just say the Hyperion feels much more stable. And I felt like dinks, drops, those felt really, really good. I felt like my serve felt good. I just think some of the resets don't feel as stable. Yeah, I felt like the sweet spot was kind of as expected. It definitely is not tiny, kind of like a Project 002, but I don't think it felt maybe as massive as the sweet spot on the original Warrior. I don't know what other people's experiences with it were, but I think with the loss of the weight, it doesn't feel as stable. And as a result, the sweet spot feels a little bit smaller. But I think it's right in line with most other paddles, it feels like.
Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the Diadem Warrior Edge. If I'm going to be completely honest, it's not my favorite paddle. I think in the realm of carbon face paddles, a lot of companies are doing it right now and it's kind of the big popular thing. In my opinion, there's really nothing special about Diadem's version of this face material. It feels, flimsy is the wrong word, but it's just something cheap about it. When you hit the ball near the edge, it vibrates a lot. It feels extremely light, and it just doesn't feel like it's gonna hold up over time to me. And in my opinion, their edge guard technology here, claiming that you're gonna gain aerodynamics and a little bit of speed or whatever it is a bit of a stretch in my opinion. I think every company has their little niche, and I think this one's a little out there. And something really important for me, the handle. This one feels especially cheap to me. I'm not a huge fan of this handle. I'd have to put probably 2 over grips on this to feel comfortable with this handle. And I feel like there's just other paddles out there with this material that do it better. Currently play with the Yola Ben Johns Hyperion CFS, and that paddle's amazing. It feels really solid, built really well. Everything about it is great. The handle's amazing. This paddle, I feel like if I did have to say something good about it, I would say drives and serves were pretty good. Not bad. I did like drives and the feel off hard shots with it, but dinking and everything, I just felt like it just didn't quite meet what other paddles do, and they just do it better.
So after playing with this for a bit of time, it just isn't for me. Initially when I got the paddle, I liked it quite a bit, but the more I played with it, the less and less I liked it. My drops were terrible, and the paddle didn't feel like it had any forgiveness. Compared to the Yola Hyperion CFS or Electrum Model E, I just really didn't enjoy using it. I think it's great that Diadem is getting their own version of these raw carbon fiber surfaces and expanding their lineup with an in-between paddle of the Icon and Warrior, but of all the carbon fiber surfaces I've tried, This one is probably my least favorite. Minus the sweet spot, I'm not sure I would say it's a bad paddle, it just doesn't fit my style of play. I like paddles that are softer and easier for me to reset, drop, and dink with, even if that means I sacrifice a little bit of power. And with the Edge, I just didn't feel like I could do any of that well. So if you like Diadem, wanted a paddle with a touch more power than the other carbon fiber surfaces, and are okay with a slightly smaller sweet spot, then this paddle will probably feel good to you. But for me, it just wasn't a good fit. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to click like and subscribe down below. And if you want to check out my original Warrior review, you can do that right there.